Good afternoon. It's good to be here with you this afternoon. For any of you who don't know me, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Mindy Burke, and I am a career and life coach. I work with information technology professionals to help them create more time and space for the things that matter most. And the reason that I'm here today is because I had a conversation with one of my colleagues on Tuesday that brought up a lot of the same points that I work with my clients on very frequently. And that is the topic of time management. And I started to work with this process recently and I really enjoyed it. So I just shared that on Facebook. And one of my colleagues reached out to me and she just started to ask me some questions, and we decided to jump on the phone together. And I can share with her what it is that I've learned. And in the process of that, when we decided to get on the phone, or when we got on the phone, I wanted to ask her a couple of questions for us to understand what it is that she was actually struggling with. What was it about time management that really she felt like she could improve upon or that wasn't working for her now? And during that conversation, we came up with the three things that I hear from so many of my clients when they talk about their lack of time management skills. And so what I thought I'd do is I would share topic one today, and then I'm also going to share the second and the third next week. So Tuesday and Thursday, I'm going to go live. I'm going to record another video for you to address those two things. And first of all, to understand that time can't be managed, right? So we all know that we have the same amount of time. We all have 24 hours in a day. And it's not how we manage the time, it's how we manage our activities within that time, right? And it's not that we don't know what to do. It's not for lack of knowledge, it's not for lack of skills around managing our activities within that time frame, right? We all know what we need to do. We all know what's on our activity list or our to-do list or what's waiting, on the strategic list at work. We all understand that stuff. We all know how many hours there are in a day, right? That doesn't change for anyone. And we all know how to take actions toward getting a project done, toward completion, toward making sure that we have everything that we need to get, quote, done, right? And many of us have also read books or heard different time management strategies, whether it's in a seminar or through HR at work. We've all heard a lot of tactics, right, that people use and recommend to manage our activity well. Things like turning off the distractions, right? Turning off your desktop notifications or even closing your email while you're working on something. Or turning off your Facebook notifications or your text message notifications. The little buzz on your desk still distracts you. Creating boundaries. So if you're in the middle of like a big focus time, a big crunch to get something done, and you're constantly being interrupted, there's actually data that suggests that it takes us about 17 minutes to fully return to a task once we get interrupted, okay? So allowing yourself to create boundaries with those around you, saying, you know what, I really want to help you. I will get back to you, but right now I need to work on this. We all know that works a little bit better with adults than it does kids. I know we're working from home right now, and that can create some complications, but it's something that you can use to help with your time management or activity management, right? We've probably all heard about putting things on our calendar. And I know if you're anything like me, that was a huge, I resisted that big time for a long time. And then taking small steps every single day, right? I think was it Andrew Carnegie? I'm trying to remember who the big consultant was that started recommending this to a bigwig business person. However, I know that I learned it from Jack Canfield. He talks about the rule of 5 and how you just take 5 steps toward your goal every single day. And the last tactic that we've typically heard of is to complete one thing before you move on to the next thing, right? We talk about multitasking quite a bit and how I'm really good. And I had some colleagues who used to say, I'm really good at multitasking. And again, it's statistics or research shows that it takes 17 minutes to actually fully re-engage with something once you've been distracted. So it's much more productive to finish one thing and then move on to the next. Okay. So as we were talking, the first block that came up, and by the way, I'm calling this 3 blocks of effective time management. Okay. And the first block that shows up very consistently when I talk to people is just lack of being true to your own priorities, right? If I were to ask you, and I do ask you, and you can share it with me in the comments if you'd like, but I ask my clients, okay, what's important to you? And very often I hear things like family or spouse, relationship, kids, something along the relationship spectrum. My health, it's important for me to be active and to maybe ride my bike or go hiking, be out in nature. Spirituality, for some people, it's taking the time to meditate and recenter. For some people, it is the security of just being in a home that has air conditioning and it has heating and a strong roof over our heads. And for some of us, the important things, some of it is contributing in some way back to society, leaving a legacy behind for our kids, things of that nature. So if I were to ask you what's important, you could very easily, in most cases, give me a list of things that are very important to you. However, when it comes to how we're actually investing our time, it looks nothing like that list that we just talked about. We end up, believing that in the moment, keeping our house clean is the most important thing, right? I have to do the dishes. I have to do the laundry. I'm going to bring out my Pennsylvania Dutch here. We have to red up the living room, right? We have to clean up the living room. Okay, so a lot of us, put what we say is most important aside in order to keep our house clean. We talk about, what's important to us, but when we get home from a stressful day, all we want to do is sit on the couch, eat our potato chips, and watch TV, right? We kind of zone out. Same thing for scrolling through Facebook, or I have a game on my phone that I could really get involved in for hours. It's like one of those strategy games. I could do that for hours. Getting our nails done, getting our hair done, going shopping, whatever it is for us women, right? Maybe for some men too, you never know. And it's like when we actually invest our time and what we're actually investing our time in, it's almost like the 2 most important things in our lives are our responsibilities, which of course that's important, but is it the most important? And or vegging out, right? Relaxing, blowing off steam, forgetting the world, escaping, that kind of stuff, right? And so we end up living on default, very reactionary. We kind of just take life as it comes to us. So if the car breaks down, then we'll handle it. If we start gaining weight, then we'll worry about eating the right foods and exercising. When we start feeling really stressed out and burned out, that's maybe when we'll take a break, if we're really nice to ourselves, right? And when we get to the point where we're doing all of these activities that don't really feel like they fill us up, when they don't really feel like we're getting all of it done, we end up telling ourselves, and we actually firmly believe that there's just too much to do and too little time to do it in. Okay? Rather than being intentional and deciding that I'm going to take this time to read something that interests me. I'm going to carve out this hour or whatever it is in order to make me and my family a healthy meal. I'm going to exercise 3 times a week, not because I'm gaining too much weight, but because it makes me feel better, because I feel good when I do it. And, carving out time or space to meditate and to take a walk in nature, do something that rebuilds the soul, right? To engage in a hobby, something that you love to do. And it may feel really noble to put everyone else's needs ahead of yours. If you're anything like me, my upbringing was always everybody else first, right? You put yourself last. Okay? It may feel noble. It might feel, quote, right. It might feel, that's what we're taught as part of our religious beliefs, whatever it is for you. It might feel selfish to put yourself a little bit higher on that priority list. But what I really want to ask of you is, how productive can you be when you're nodding off? How productive can you be when you're really stressed out, when you're burned out? How productive can you be when you just have zero energy left to give? You ever think about that? So, when I think about this topic, I often tell the story about where I was probably about 10 years ago. And at that point, my kids were much younger, and I was getting up between 5 and 5:30 in the morning to get myself ready for work. And then around 6 o'clock, I would get the kids up. I'd help them get ready for school, ready for daycare, give them breakfast. Then I'd take them off to where they were supposed to be, whether it was putting them on the bus or taking them to daycare. And then I would go to work for the full day. I'd pick the kids up after work, come home, we'd have dinner. I might spend a little bit of time with my kids, but really, if I'm honest, it wasn't good quality time. We were like in the same room together. And then we would get ready for bed, give them baths, put them to bed. And at that point, I had a house to take care of, right? So I would be folding laundry, I would be putting dishes in the dishwasher, cleaning up the dishes from the meal that night. And at one point then, I actually started my business too. So then I was going to work in my business, and I wasn't going to bed till like midnight. And I can tell you, during that time frame, I was irritable, I was short-tempered, I was passive. I would actually go to the bathroom to try to hide from my kids, hoping they wouldn't find me. By the way, which never works. It's almost like they put a homing device or a homing beacon on you, right? They know exactly where to find you. It didn't matter if I hid in the bathroom, the closet, they always found me. And I just wasn't showing up the way I wanted to in my relationships, in my workplace, in my life. And so the first thing when it comes to activity management, I don't like the word time management, as you can tell, but it's still kind of a habit because that's how everybody refers to it. But the first step is to get really clear about what you are currently making your priority. How do you currently spend your time? And let me just give you an example of one of the clients that I worked with and how we worked on this together and what we discovered out of it. So a couple of years ago, I worked with a woman who came to me saying, I would like to work 30 hours a week in my business. Right now, I'm working way more than that, but I'm still not getting everything on my to-do list done. And so the first thing that I had her do was literally to track her time. And I use an app on my phone for that. You could track it on a spreadsheet or just by writing it down on a piece of paper, whatever works for you. But I had her track her time for like a week or two. And what came out of that is a big realization for her, was that she wasn't spending more than 30 hours a week working. As a matter of fact, she wasn't even spending 30 hours a week working. She was spending only 10 hours a week focusing on her business. So why did she feel like it was so much longer than that? Well, because she would decide, okay, I'm going to go to the living room and work on this project for an upcoming event that I'm going to hold. And on her way to the living room, she would load the dishwasher. She would put a load of laundry in. She would maybe repot a plant. She was doing all of these things on her way to the living room until she finally got there and started working. And she says, okay, now I need to put a post on Facebook about this event to announce it. And so she would go to her office, log into Facebook, and spend the next 2 hours scrolling through her Facebook feed, right? Looking at the funny videos, looking at the memes, interacting, reposting, laughing up a storm, right? She was enjoying Facebook. And then she would take something for her business to the post office, and she'd run a couple errands on the way home. She'd stop at the grocery store, she'd stop and buy a pair of shoes, she'd stop at CVS, all of those things on the way home. So her intention of doing just 3 things took hours, if not days, right? And so it wasn't until she recognized that she was able to say, okay, that's why I'm feeling like I'm working so much more. And it's not because, again, that she was, hi, Alex. Good to see you here. It's not that she was working that much, but she was constantly thinking about working that much, right? It was constantly in her brain. What do I have to do? What is there left? When am I going to get it done, right? And that constant mind chatter about when she was going to work actually felt like she was working, okay? So once you recognize how you're actually spending your time, then it's time to get really intentional about how you truly want to spend your time, okay? And when I do this with my clients, I focus on two things primarily. Not that this is it, but these are the two biggies that we always talk about. And the first one is our needs, right? What is it that you need in order to recharge your batteries and to show up in life as the person that you want to be? What feeds your soul? What relaxes you? How do you feel loved and recognized and valued in the world? How often do you need to nurture yourself for you to feel like a human being at the end of the day who can actually engage in your relationships, engage in your own life, engage to the highest degree in those things that we want to get done, to engage and be the best people we are when we're in the workplace? What is it that you need in order for that to happen? And the second thing that we very often talk about are values. And we've talked about in the beginning of this little video, we talked about what's important to you. And those are your values, right? And I will recommend, and I recommend to you, if this is something that you struggle with, to make a list of everything that's important to you, okay? And then taking some time to sit with those things, that list in front of you, and rate or think about three things in each of those areas about each of those things. And that is, first of all, how much time, energy, and intention are you putting into investing in those things that you say are so important to you? How much satisfaction do you feel when it comes to those things that are really important to you? And lastly, do they cause you any stress, and why? Very often what happens, and I can use myself as an example here, when I first started my business, I was investing a ton of time, a ton of energy, a ton of money into getting my business up and running. And yet, after I was able to recognize it, what I saw was that it was also causing so much stress for me. And my satisfaction in my business was so depleted, so low, right? And that's just because of how I was investing my time and my thoughts about how I was investing my time. And once I was able to rearrange some of those things, which is a lot of what I do in my coaching, I help people to understand their thoughts, to understand their habits, to understand why they do what it is that they do. Once I was able to do that with myself, by the way, with the help of my own coach, because I have a coach too, I fully endorse and believe in that process of having a coach. And they helped me to really kind of realign what I was doing, what I was thinking. Okay. So use this information. I hope it was helpful for you. This was, again, only point one. I'm going to give you two more things next week, one on Tuesday, one on Thursday. So stay on the lookout for that. If you would be interested in diving into this topic a little bit more deeply, I do have a couple of coaching slots available right now. And I invite you to reach out to me and we can just simply have a conversation and see if it's a good fit. May or may not be, and that's okay either way. Okay, you can reach out to me through private message through Facebook here, or you can send me an email. My email is M as in Mary, I, N as in Nancy, D as in Douglas, I, at beliefactionresults.com. Okay, I hope you found this to be really helpful. Next week, again, the two more blocks of effective time management. Thanks a lot. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great weekend. See you soon.